Immediately, Wilde LLC is the sole owner and possessor of all rights, trademarks, and episodes of the Opinion City podcast. We can do anything we want with it. We're the hosts now, starting this Sunday.
This is a Ben Frank Connection presentation.
Greetings and salutations, Cretans of the world. As was discovered, as was released earlier this week, Wilde LLC is now the owner, and I would love to introduce first myself. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Wilde LLC, the best business in the wrestling business. And I would like to formally welcome you to the first episode of so many high-quality, deep intellectual conversations surrounding what's going on in the wrestling world, what's new in the world of art, what's new in the world of fine music, not pop music, not dubstep or anything of that nature. So welcome to the first episode of the new Opinion City podcast. As said, I am Dr. Ethan Wilde. I'm so excited for you to meet our hosts today and possibly our guests as well. So let's bring out, for today, our co-host. He is the Chief of Staff of Wilde LLC. He is upstanding. He is Dylan Mesh. Dylan, greetings, salutations, good afternoon, good sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm just dandy, boss. And how about yourself?
Could not be better. It's a beautiful day. We have a new asset. We continue to grow. We continue to merge. We continue to acquire. And what better place to be than a podcast on a beautiful, sunny summer afternoon? Who wants to be outside? Although it looks like you have been.
Oh, yes. I was quite outside for probably far too long. Yeah. But I finished up what I was doing so I could come back in here. And so we could get to the first episode of the new and improved Opinion City podcast. Surely a step up in just about every single way now that we are in charge and we can give the listeners of this program a quality show that I'm not going to say they deserve, but
no, absolutely not. But the world needs better culture, right? Of all the options for the listeners, for the viewers, somebody needs to bring them erudite information. Somebody needs to bring them high art, high culture, and who better than Dylan Mesh and Dr. Ethan Wilde. We have an excellent show for you all today. We have many guests to introduce to you, some surprises along the way, all new assets. Look at this beautiful background. Look at the filigree surrounding. We have curtains that match Dylan Mesh's sunburn. We have brought it all for you today.
Yeah.
And so much more. Dylan, time for a little, it's typical of podcasts. I've listened to many podcasts. And so I'm a veteran of the podcast listening, but new to hosting. And I think this is the part of the show where we engage in a little bit of witty repartee, a little bit of small talk. Dylan, what are you listening to these days when you're at the gym pumping iron and getting ready for your next matches?
Oh, goodness. Oh, what am I listening to? Well, I try to keep my music as diversified as my financial portfolio. So literally on the drive back over here, I was listening to The Naked and Famous, which is a sort of like a synth pop type group, if you've never heard of them. And then just the day before, I was listening to Roger Waters' solo albums, which were okay. So varies wildly. How about yourself?
Yeah. An excellent pun. Well, Naked and Famous, you said, was the first act?
They had a track. Their most famous track was called Young Blood, and I think that came out 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Kind of gives you an idea of where they're at in the grand scope of things, but that will not stop me from seeking them out.
I see. Well, on my audio, let's take a look. I've actually started a playlist of songs that I've woken up with in my head, and I feel like it's a bit revelatory. So let's take a look and go. I need to add. There's a Tegan and Sarah song that I woke up with in my head this morning, but the last few days before that was Jeff Rosenstock, Angel Olsen with Sharon Van Etten. And then Bronski Beat, classic 80s pop. Poison Ruin, Philadelphia Dungeon Punk, I suppose is probably how they self-describe. And then Phil Collins, One More Night, a classic. Phil Collins, One More Night, Summer Evenings, Bartles and James by the Poolside, and hopefully few other people, because I didn't want to be around the public even then.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
Excellent. Yes.
See you later.
Diversified like our assets, from championships to promotions to podcasts. Okay, this marks the end of the small talk segment, and we are going to migrate on robotically to introducing our guests. And it's certainly our pleasure. I know it's passé to say it's our pleasure to have these guests, but as the former hosts, it's absolutely our pleasure to bring on Ralph and Sean. I know that their titles. Can we change those? I don't want you to be King Ralph. I don't want you to be Parma.
King of what?
What is going on?
I think Ralph and Sean.
Regular Ralph.
We've lost access to our show, sir. I don't know what's going on right now.
Tell Alan.
We weren't even aware of this.
Room.
We weren't told of this. I watched the video and I wish we were aware. I wish the BFC would tell us what's going on rather than just tell you everything and not tell us what's going on.
Well,
I'm heartbroken.
Heartbroken isn't even the word for it.
Well, they have a direct line to me.
Yeah.
If they're not talking to you, that sounds like an issue between the two of you that we're not germane to us.
Like the idea that you think you're important enough that you need to be clued in on these things just because you're a podcast host, because that's just so high up on the ladder of society.
Oh, they took our stuff. They took our podcast from us. We're podcast homeless. Well, sorry about it.
The adults were making the decisions, and you were affected, and now you're seeing the result of that. So there you go.
That figures.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pretty simple.
well, I guess if we're gonna do this, we've got to do this.
Yep. We're here. We are your guests of the evening.
Former
hosts of the Opinion City podcast. So let me ask the first question.
What?
As a former host.
What?
Just to start things off. Yeah, I'm going to take some of the reins a little bit.
He doesn't look like he likes that. They don't look
how
like they like that.
how did the Wilde LLC form?
How did we form? Well,
where did it all start?
Say it started with a modest capital investment back in about 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been accruing my assets in the market elsewhere, but I decided to take a little bit of that nest egg, invest in a little bit of wrestling training. So I started training in Philadelphia about 2017, maybe 2016. Hard to recall at this point. Trained with luminaries like Hallowicked, Fire Ant, Icarus, Drew Gulak. Spent some time there, training with them, learning a tremendous amount of lucha libre, tremendous amount, high respect. One of these days, I would love to wrestle Hallowicked, and unlike most of the people that we face, that we have absolutely no respect for, because they haven't earned the right to deserve any respect. Hallowicked is somebody I would absolutely have respect for. So started there, moved on, continued to invest, right? You diversify a portfolio, you contain a multitude of assets. Moved on to the Worldwide Dojo several years ago, trained with Cheeseburger, trained with Preacher. He's constantly bringing in a rotating cast of characters of excellent performers to train with. In fact, next week, there's 3 days of lucha legend, the professor himself, Skida, who will be leading 3 days of training, and you bet your bottom dollar that we'll continue to invest in that. So started there. As we accrue some assets, you start with a nest egg, you buy the right assets, you let them mature, you let them appreciate, you take that capital and you continue to invest elsewhere. So started Camp Leapfrog, trying to get that. Brad Rush and Kilowatt, Maestro, all those folks that made it so difficult to try to acquire, well, they ultimately failed, didn't they?
Here's so.
Dylan, what's on your mind?
Very similar story for myself. Began wrestling training in 2017 with no financial know-how whatsoever. So Dr. Wilde, got all that started on his own, and then I kind of had to be brought into the fold and pick up on all that much later when we would start doing business with each other. But my journey started with the Ring of Honor Dojo, learning under Delirious and Cheeseburger and Will Ferrell.
Wow.
Got to know Dr. Wilde just across various shows that we were on and whatnot, and training together. And then it was under the banner of Camp Leapfrog, regardless of how I feel about how it was being run at the time before we were able to take the reins on that. It was there that the business relationship between us really started to come together, along with several other related parties. And from there, once we started to, get control of those assets a little bit more, and things started to morph into high tension wrestling, it was then that, Wilde LLC started to form proper. And that was where everything really started to kick off.
Now, let me ask you two a question. As the host, as the rightful host.
Sure.
You recall?
How did you start?
Oh, all right. So we're probably going back maybe 6 or 7 years.
Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
And I had the idea for the podcast. Everything was formulating. Had the equipment, took the time to invest, make sure I was properly ready to go, and things just never materialized. So if we fast forward to last year, I decided once again to try and take a shot at this, get really serious about it. And I had previously asked no longer Parma but Sean to join in with myself on this venture. And having not started all those years ago, I came back to Sean and said, listen, I'm going to take a real serious run at this. We're going to try and do something so that we can have our own podcast and not get bought out by an evil corporation. I see I failed. But
evil.
Hey, listen, I'm just a meager employee. Don't don't write me up on my performance review. So we started last year, got things rolling, started off as an audio only podcast, had a few guests, about 18 or so episodes in. We started adding guests to the show. We started adding video live. And here we are, a year later.
And now we've been absolved by the Wilde LLC.
Former hosts on our own show.
And look at you now.
I know.
Really
crazy.
It's a true American tale. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
All right. So
Horatio Alger to the top.
Yeah. Well, I'm
and
looking
then lose it all.
I'm looking forward to my Wilde LLC benefits package.
Yeah,
when that comes in the mail.
That comes very soon. Yeah,
I'm very excited.
We'll get to those. Let's talk about other stuff.
Yeah, with Stephen and HR as a sore subject.
Wonderful. So yes, so here we are, former hosts, and
how does it feel? That's what I want to know. That's the most important question.
I mean,
how does it feel?
I think it's a mixed bag. I would say
it's a little bit of a sting.
It's a bit of a sting, but also I understand the power of the Wilde LLC a little bit. So I mean, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me.
I understand the power of the Wilde LLC, but listen, this is my baby here. I have fostered this and grown this, and now I feel like that's been taken away from me a little bit. So it's a little sad. You know, if Dylan Mesh didn't have such a great beard, I might be a little more hurt, but you know, his beard game is on point. Yeah. So it's it is what it is. I'm gonna take things with stride, and hopefully things won't change too much. Hopefully, you know, the show won't change too much, but who knows? With the Wilde LLC influence, there, you know, obviously you can see there's been
some changes already.
There's been some changes in graphics, and so apparently, you know, the Wilde LLC bought everything. Graphics
so literally
included.
Everything's included. Graphics, names,
drastic improvements, I'd say.
Significant. Well, as a large multinational corporation with a high market cap, we have the ability to invest in these assets immediately. And look, we ultimately want to support you.
Yeah,
we want to support the podcast, right? We invest in something, we want it to bear profit. I didn't invest in it just to control it and say, ha ha ha, we have it from you, and now you can't have your plaything. That's just a perk. That's just a perk. That's not the reason for doing it. We invest in something, and so we can derive material benefit. So we're going to offer some aesthetic improvements, some substantive content-related improvements. You'll continue to see those throughout the next several weeks as we look. We're also in the middle. It's almost the end of Q2. All of finance is making sure that we're putting our best foot forward for our Q2 earnings call at the end of the next month. But we're crunching those numbers right now. We're in the midst. You know, our growth team's in the middle of a giant reorg as well. And you know how that is. You really just you have to go with what the market is telling you. And it's going to be a slow rollout. You'll see gradual changes. We'll still keep you around a little bit as long as it benefits us. But
appreciate
I will. But we'll see larger changes over the meantime. But in the meantime, look, it's still going to be your foster baby. And so happy Father's Day on that note.
Very well.
So you guys all have job titles. Where do we fall in line?
You will fall in line. That's a very good term to use. Where that is certainly up to the boss.
Yeah. Look, I know that do you all have access to the Wilde LLC Workday yet?
We weren't given access.
No,
we weren't given the access.
Don't look for the benefits tab when you get there.
So
I've been patiently waiting by my email for that.
Very patiently waiting on the email for the next package to come through.
So first things first, I'd recommend trying to log back in to the Workday. Make sure you're connected to our VPN, or else it may not allow you.
That's probably why we're not getting through.
It's probably the VPN.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you know, once you take a look in there, it's Workday lags a little bit. It may not be up to date. So if you see Ralph's job title is like chief fry operator, like it's probably not going to be up to date. Or Sean, you know, custodial services, like it's just a placeholder.
I already had the experience. I mean, that works. Like,
you know,
I already have prior experience there.
It's interesting that you mentioned custodial services, because previous to being bought out by Wilde LLC, the Ben Frank Corporation, I believe, had you listed under custodial services.
They probably did.
In addition,
they probably did. They probably already knew. They probably already knew from Ethan.
They did,
and they just put it there.
Yes, it translated over in the buyout
smoothly.
Worth pointing out, Ralph, if you do see CFO, it is chief fry operator. It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
Well, listen, if I was chief financial officer, we'd be running on Steiner Math. So it's a good thing we're not.
Yeah, Steiner Math would not be the best of choices.
No.
Yeah.
Dylan, you look pensive.
Well, I was thinking about the idea of this guy handling the finances and running on time. That's not a timeline that I want to exist in. So I think everything is going just fine the way that it is.
Yes, definitely. Your rank order of chief financial officers.
Yeah.
Jason Furious, Bernie Madoff, Martin Shkreli, King Ralph.
That sounds about right.
I'm sorry. Slight revision. Martin Shkreli's Wu-Tang album then Martin Shkreli, then
Right.
King Ralph. I'd rather have Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, by the way, which the federal government owns now. Did you know?
Okay.
All right.
Goodness.
Okay.
So as the Wilde LLC, what as your job titles, what do you and Dylan Mesh do respectively in the Wilde LLC?
Whoa.
Dylan, I will punt that over to you to start with.
Well, as chief of staff, I basically just make sure that the staff is there, they do exist, they have not keeled over and died, and that they are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. On top of my duties of just being an incredible human being, being incredibly upstanding, and getting in the ring and doing whatever needs to be done within those ropes. That's what I do. Also, just so you know, you're staff now too, so you fall under that. Do not keel over and die. You will report to me. End of story.
Yes, sir.
I promise that if I die, you'll be the first call.
There you-
Good.
Well, the last time somebody keeled over and died, it was Aaron Roxas.
Oh,
We had to
Turn
we had
talk
to,
after dying.
we had to replace him.
Damn it.
That left a Aaron Roxas sized hole, and I'd say we filled that in. So, chief of staff, chief executive officer, self-explanatory. CEO. Please don't get that dreadful top 5 worst wrestling themes of all time in your head. Bane, I might simply just change my job title, right? I could be the executive. Well, I wouldn't be a vice president. That's too lowly for me. I could be the executive president of Wilde LLC, right? Because nobody has that as a chant embedded very loudly in their otherwise dreadful. I also want to take this aside. When the announcers in commentary refer to FKA Sasha Banks as Mercedes Money, it sounds incredibly juvenile. It sounds like a cartoon character, not Monet. Monet is an artist. Monet ought to be an artist, but instead we get Mercedes Money. It sounds like Marcel Duchamp, right? It's not. It's
Right.
It's uncouth.
It's uncouth. It's uncouth.
It's uncivilized.
So, chief executive officer until I decide to change it. If anybody starts chanting CEO in my direction, I would.
You might have to change it then. You might have to change
I will absolutely change it in a heartbeat. Journey Burke Esquire, chief counsel, made the connections, helped connect the LLC with the Ben Frank connection, with the BFC, and the BFC and the LLC are BFFs. If you see,
there it is.
There's the answer. Journey couldn't just let us know. Just made a call and
Look,
ixnayed us out of the whole thing.
Yeah, we were not even involved in the decision.
Nope. We were just.
I don't even know what to say. I feel like that I should get on the phone to my lawyer James P. Albini and see what can be done. I don't know. He was yes.
Any relation to Steve?
No, but but he was recommended to me by Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
Well,
so I don't.
You two take that up together. I know it's disappointing to be excluded from conversations, but I want to reiterate that's not an us problem.
Yeah, well, I thank you for your candor and your ignorance towards the problem.
Willful.
Ignorance towards the problem. Yes.
Willful. There was no involuntary ignorance, but textbook. I am ignorant. I do not know ignos because I don't wish to.
Okay.
So a couple people out of the way. Brian Ace. Brian Ace is the chief executive administrative assistant. He was hoping that he could be with us today. However, both Dylan and my automobiles were very, very filthy at Sunday. So sometimes, look, when you complete the application and when you agree to the terms that you both did, and you'll see this in Workday, nights and weekends, occasional nights and weekends, or maybe is it frequent or every? I'll have to check the latest updates. I think it's a minimum occasional, but it might be frequent or every. And that's just the nature of the game. Whether you're at a show, you're setting up a ring, you're winning a championship, you're watching a Mitsubishi. Dylan, I don't know what car you have. It's nicer than that, right?
I have a Subaru.
Yeah.
What do you have, Ralph?
I have a RAV4
There you go.
I'm living large.
Living large and in charge.
Fascinating, truly. Yeah.
Huge step above the RAV3.
Thanks. Yes. I'm waiting for the RAV5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
It's on pre-order.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were hoping to get like some company vehicles as we got, absolved in, but we got no contact about that. So that's why I got my Super.
when
And he has the RAV4.
When did you have time to think about company vehicles?
Listen.
Like we don't even own our own podcast
I know,
anymore. And
yeah, I
you're
know.
like, I'm
Listen,
waiting for a company vehicle.
A man
Well-
can dream, right? A man can dream.
Look, how often do you read Market Watch? How often do you read the WSJ? How often are you keeping up with the financial papers? What do you know
every
about
14 and a half years.
Every 14 and a half years.
well, it shows.
Yeah.
Look,
Yes.
we're not having the best quarter. We're still champions.
Oh.
We're still acquiring assets.
Mhm.
But if you think that we're in a fiscal position to just spendthrift and buy every person a RAV6 out there, then you're sorely mistaken. That hasn't been the
listen.
company policy for several years.
This guy asked for it, not me.
Well,
No, see, the only thing he wants is his show back. That's
a show bag. Yeah, well, we've got swag. Like you can get the fanny pack, right?
of course.
You can have a fanny pack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
listen.
I'll be down with the
A
Wilde
fanny
LLC
pack
fanny
is-
pack.
It's a start.
Yeah, that's a good start. That's a very good start.
It's a
No, well, we'll sell you the Opinion City podcast.
Oh,
fanny.
okay. Oh,
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I'm still. I don't know if we can talk to Aloysius in the truck if we can bring up the merch images or not.
Oh, we can definitely bring up the merch.
I'm new to podcasting.
We can definitely bring up the merch over there.
Yeah, it's gonna take a
Yeah,
minute.
Aloysius
we
will
can
make
take a minute, but the
Yeah, we're good.
production up will bring up the merch for sure.
Sure.
Do you have any other questions for us
Oh.
as the hosts?
What's it like to be talking to greatness?
Oh, I mean,
That's a good question.
that's a very good
I
question.
mean,
That's a hard one to kind of crack. Indifferent, but like also amazing, but in a good way. Like
you're gonna get us fired.
I'm still indifferent, man. Listen, you can't just give in to them because they took over our show. You gotta at least fight back a little bit.
All right.
And if you want, then I will.
I mean, I understand. There's, I get that.
I think they're amazing and that they're very talented. Both of them,
Wow.
all of them, all six of them are amazingly talented in the ring, out of the ring.
They're sure. I mean,
But
there's no words
When
to
it comes to
describe.
the podcast,
You're.
I'm trying to stick to our ground here, man.
I mean, I get it. I do.
What is your opinion on their greatness? What do you think?
Well, greatness is subjective. Not that I don't see greatness. I see greatness in a beard style, and I see greatness in hairstyle. I think that everyone is doing a wonderful job greatness wise as far as that goes. Beyond that, I don't know if I'm necessarily the best person to be a judge of talent. I mean, I'm not in the ring. I'm not a wrestler. I don't I don't do that sort of thing. So I'm not sure I could necessarily I don't know. It's been rough thinking about it.
Who's the
sometimes-
greatest wrestler you've ever met in person? Like,
Oh,
show
Ralph.
your hand.
So
Gotta-
Ralph has met so
Oh,
many
boy.
wrestlers in his
Here we
time. I don't
go.
know if he can even narrow down to one.
Wow.
Top
many.
three.
Ooh, top three.
Top
Okay.
three.
Top three. Okay.
So in terms of overall greatness, not just in the ring but everything they've done, I mean, I've met the big names. I've met Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've met your Hulk Hogan's. I've met your Ric Flairs. I've met your sturdy Sal Mastranos. I've met your Puffs. I did meet Ethan Wilde once.
There you go.
And I met Dylan Mesh as well.
Mhm.
And
Dylan Mania ran wild that week.
it was an experience. I'll say that. I feel like my ability to judge greatness may have been
Construed a little bit,
at
right?
that
Right.
point,
A little bit
because it's
construed.
like, what can I possibly say about guys that would eventually buy me out?
I know.
But I will say, as a whole, Wilde LLC definitely has an aura of greatness around them.
Mhm.
You know, in that vein, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Wilde LLC is doing right now? I mean, let's talk about the greatness you've got going on right now, because I'm sure you guys are all very busy.
You have your hands in everything right now at this point.
With a number of
Sure,
things.
sure, absolutely. First, as the new host, I'm practicing, right? I have training wheels on. We all have to learn how to do something sometime. So as a host,
Right.
I recognize there's comments, and I see Laser Neon has said, "Hey,
Hey.
My
in
boy.
the
Look, it's Laser Neon
Laser Neon says hey
on the screen,
on the screen.
joining us today.
if
We're
you have
here.
something substantive you want to provide for the hosts or something
As
trivial
if you
to
if-
ask the guests, feel free to drop
Yeah,
that.
if you
Yes.
didn't already know, Laser, we have been absolved by the Wilde LLC. We are no longer the hosts, but they have taken over by storm. New graphics, new look, new everything. We have now been reduced to guests.
We are just humble. We are just humble employees.
Humble employees of the Wilde LLC.
of
The quality of New
corporation.
Coke, the
Yes.
quality of the legacy of New Coke to this
Yeah.
podcast.
Legacy of New
Indeed.
Coke.
and absorbed is the word you're looking for. You have said absolved.
Okay, absorbed. My bad.
I have-
Listen,
We
Well-
have absolved nobody.
Yes, there's no absolution.
there's no absolution. There's just absorption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Got it.
I think that's good.
So-
Alliteration,
Hey, listen, I
same number of
tried.
syllables. That's going to go on a shirt. I like it.
Sure, why not?
For me, top 3 people I have met wrestler wise.
No, this. I'm
One
excited.
has to be Orange Cassidy off the top.
Oh.
I've met him a bunch of times. Orange, so is he.
Yeah,
He's great,
you
fantastic wrestler, fantastic dude all around. Orange Cassidy, number 1. Number 2, Ultimo Ant. Ultimo Ant is become a very good friend of the podcast, friend of ours. He was our very first podcast guest. Ultimo Ant was episode 7, very first guest on the show, and he has been up until this point the outro ever since.
With it, I hope we'll check with Samantha in the truck to make sure that that's not the case for this.
Right.
episode.
Yeah, of course, but yes,
Yes.
but I guess up until this point, Ultimo Ant has been the outro for every episode. Number
Mhm.
3. Oh, so many people that I've seen or met. Number 3, Pete Corbus. That man
Mm.
has a special.
Interesting.
I've met him also multiple times. He was
Okay.
also on an episode of a guest on the show. Really good dude as well, and I've met him, and he was a great person to meet as well.
Deep cuts. Deep cuts. Very
Deep
good.
cuts, deep cuts, always deep cuts.
Mhm.
So Dylan, what's on tap for you in the next month or so?
Yeah, I would like to pivot away from them talking about
Yeah.
what the hell they were on about.
People are going to listen to that.
The strides that Wilde LLC has been making lately. I want to go back to the presence that we had all over the Philadelphia area for the week of WrestleMania.
Mm.
I feel like that was a huge success. Members on shows all over the city, the general area outside of the city. It was great to see. I think that was when we also ran into you two.
Mhm.
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 No idea what was in store for you, and here we are. But that's like, even recently. I mean, I made my debut in West Virginia, so
Oh wow.
we are beginning to kind of spread roots, if you will,
Mhm.
country more. So that's very cool. But I mean, we already have more stuff coming up. I think, Boss, you and I, we have a match that I don't think was even announced yet for a show up in the northeast of the Philadelphia type area. Did they announce that yet? The joint show?
In July?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Do
Well,
we want to break that?
Breaking news on the first episode of Wilde
What's
LLC's
the worst
Wednesday
that can
podcast.
happen is that it won't happen.
dude, get mad at us, yell at us. Like, we basically got.
Well,
we
yeah.
You can't get subtweeted by somebody who's not online.
got yeah. So, well, let me just put it this way. The boss and I will be teaming with a non-Wilde LLC member, somebody who is very talented.
Oh.
Maybe
A little vulgar, but very talented.
incredible.
Okay.
individual. That doesn't narrow it down at all, but maybe that's okay.
Sure.
We will be in a trios match against some particularly interesting opponents. Let's do it that way. So keep an eye on social media, and you will see that news drop pretty soon, I'm sure.
That's about a month from now. That's July 14th. I want to shout out. So real quick rundown. We run high tension, right? That's ours. That's
okay.
We know that. So
right,
high tension runs. We're there. We rule. Okay, we're gonna defend the Campeonatos de Raunas if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
Is gonna show it?
Oh, there
Oh man,
it is.
there it is. Campeonatos
Shout
de
out.
Run.
Hashtag Big Wood.
Hashtag Big Wood. Yes.
So,
yes.
We run high tension, but we have our hands everywhere. Dylan's been in Dog recently, in Mawa, frequently found at the world famous Monster Factory. Where else have you been? I don't know the name of the place in West Virginia. I'm mostly concerned that you said you were like sowing your royal oats in West Virginia, which means you should probably see a physician.
That's concerning. Yeah. The promotion was All Star Wrestling, way down south of Huntington, so way out there. Very cool.
I mean, no matter where you are in West Virginia, you're way down south.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. With the thick accents and the it's a very strange way of life, let me put it that way. But
so, beyond that, Pilgaroos sponsored Fightertainment. Jason Furious can frequently be seen at that. I think there's the upcoming cross promotional event with the Worldwide Dojo and Fightertainment. Dylan, I think you're potentially part of that. I don't know that I am, but you know, if I'm not on something, it's because I elect not to, not because I'm
right. Of course.
He is in it, whether he's on the card or not. I have been confirmed. That match is also unannounced, but that's another one that you will see it on social media, and it will be something people will want to keep an eye on. Let me put it that way.
Gotcha.
Yes. All of those. I'm sorry. Are you the host? Are you the host? We're not done. This is how many places.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't.
You can see us. I recently debuted in Eastern Townships Wrestling Association, Northern Vermont, Southern Canada. Was in a ladder match that will take probably 6.5 years off my life. Crummels and Defarge. I respect them. There's that intersection of respect and disdain.
Well, they're legitimate businessmen.
Yeah,
they're at the epicenter of that.
They say that they do business in a incredibly different way than us. That's all I'm gonna.
Yes.
Sure. You don't compare Acme with the people selling fruit off the interstate.
That's
right. Right.
Yeah.
So, but again, respect, disdain. You know, my hand will never be the same after that match. Sort of, you know, not lifelong scars, but certainly the physical and psychological wounds to prove it. Eastern Townships Wrestling. There's potential of going back to Green Mountain Wrestling in Barrie, Vermont later this year. How can we have not mentioned Smashmaster yet? Dylan, I think you recently made your debut up there. We're constantly in and out. They don't like us when we come around, so we make it frequent enough to let them know we're here and we can run things, but not frequent enough. Again, diversified portfolios and all that. We have to make sure that our assets are strategically aligned with our long-term growth objectives, and staying in one place too long narrows that focus a wee bit. Dylan, what do you want to say about Smashmaster?
Well, I would like to say that's what that is very much what the think tank is for. Those are our Wilde LLC members that very much their objective is to kind of hold things down and maintain a presence for Wilde LLC within Smashmaster Wrestling. They've done a wonderful job of that for probably over a year now. And it's a testament to the power of Wilde LLC that despite the fact that they keep trying to keep us out, we do end up on those shows sporadically because of a choice. They have to maintain our presence there somehow, because if you don't, it just upsets the balance of basically the entire sector of wrestling in this area. So the last time that we were there in March, We had a Wilde LLC sweep. Every single one of us won our respective matches.
Amazing.
So I quite
That's
agree.
great.
So despite what their ownership might think of us, they can't keep us away. And there's gonna come a day where that promotion is going to end up like this podcast did. It will be under our banner. So if any of them are listening, just take a look. Just take note of what's going on here, and just know that that's coming your way, like whether you want it to or not. And one final thing that I would like to say is that at their upcoming show, there is no way that Ricky Price is beating MIT.
No, absolutely not.
Price is beating MIT. Ricky Price is going to lose that match, and he's never going to be in Smash Master again. And annoying Ricky he can go to annoying
Ricky.
Or else. Annoying Ricky, yeah, that's what I call him. You know why? Because he's annoying. He's a very strange individual. He cannot beat MIT again. He cannot. They've had a fun series. It's been very fun watching them do their thing. MIT's not losing this match that's so important to him. Ricky's gone. Sorry.
Imagine being a more unlikable Junie Underwood than Junie Underwood.
That's so impressive.
Wow.
It's just astonishing. So, yeah, that's next Sunday. Next Sunday at Voodoo Brewing, we'll be there in spirit. The think tank representing MIT, Ricky Price. Oh, it's going to be an absolute delight. We've got the Vouv on ice, and we're ready to celebrate sending Ricky off. Ricky, his cousin, Tater Cletum Jr., whatever in the world it is.
Weird country.
They're all gone. They can go wrestle in mud yards in West Virginia. They can go wrestle for Jim.
Get out of here. So can I ask you a question, Dylan?
I guess.
At Mania Week, we saw your sweet jacket, Dylan Mania. Who made that jacket?
That was made by the ultra talented wrestles as the Crusher, who you may know.
Okay, yes.
Wow.
Also was on the Wednesday show. Well, that Doctor wrestled on, and then I wrestled the next night. Also, she has her art on separate pages on social media. I believe it goes under Butters Monster Art. Does just amazing airbrush work. Anything that you have ever seen where if I've had a big match coming up, anything that you have ever seen that had any of my work attire customized, that was done by Crusher.
Wow. It was such a cool jacket to see when you came out. Like, the airbrush quality was just top tier.
Thank you.
Top tier.
The idea was, what if I took like the Philadelphia Eagles uniform, but it was being worn by an athlete that's like respectable and capable of winning anything. That was the idea. I know that she's also done, like, if you ever seen like the silly little artwork that Cheeseburger opted to get.
Yes.
Yeah, she was nice enough to do that for him with his stupid ideas.
You, Crusher, Cheeseburger, Jet Jagori has, I think, like some white jeans and a matching jacket.
He
Blue Dragon.
He would. But yeah, it was really cool. So I keep all that stuff too. So hopefully it ends up like in a museum someday. We can sell it off for a high profit.
Yeah, of course.
Millions of dollars. Now the Crusher was also responsible for setting up, maybe about 2 weeks ago, was the Queen of the Rink. It's a skate competition festival, very DIY, very punk, very dirty, like the good kind of event in FDR Park in South Philly. And sadly, it did not happen this year. But last year we had a series of matches in a 12-foot wrestling ring with, gosh, would you say a foot of height? It makes a pony ring look like a WWE ring.
Yeah.
But tremendous fun. People skateboarding all around us. We were in a tag match, and I ended up slipping on, I think, strawberry jam that was the result of a terminated pregnancy from the prior contestants. I think it might have been Pegula from Awful Wrestling.
Was
forced her opponent to miscarry. It's consistent with the possibilities of the Awful universe. But the needless to say, the ring crew to clean up between matches was they were at the bar. They were at the bar underneath the skate ramp, buying shots of Jack Quinn's ginger brandy instead of doing their duty that day. So we ended up a little wretched, a little filthy.
Yeah.
So
To this day, that was the coolest wrestling show I have ever been a part of, maybe ever will be a part of. As a matter of fact, I got one of the posters, and it's out of frame, but it's hanging on my wall, and I had everyone, including the doctor, sign it. So that's like one of my prized possessions. Yeah, when you talk about just like unique and awesome wrestling shows, that immediately comes to mind for me, because like that was not a wrestling crowd. That was a bunch of like skateboarding punk rock people that just happened to see a wrestling ring and like gravitated around it. And
Right.
But they were into everything.
everything. And
Quite frankly, I'd rather wrestle for them 10 days a week than a wrestling crowd that wants to stream Instagram boomerangs or criticize the art or tweet about something. I just want somebody who wants to have fun, not
Right.
people who immerse themselves as kind of part of the event or live to the performative art critic impress me.
yeah, we were fortunate. Unfortunately, we did lose that match, and then we were held down and forced to introduce the punk band that was going to be our match.
Oh yeah, thanks for the reminder.
You can't force somebody to introduce a band, but that did happen. We never pressed charges, and we probably should have, but given the punk rock environment, that probably wouldn't have worked out in our favor. And that's
You're just out the attorney's fees. If you sue punk rockers, like what are you going to get? Like 16 bottle caps and a discharge CD?
You're gonna get absolutely nothing. So we didn't bother.
Right.
That same crowd threw a full drink at Cheeseburger. You know the kind of thing back in the day. If you would have ever told me the first time I ever saw that happen to a wrestler in person, if you would have told me it was Cheeseburger, I wouldn't have believed you. But got everyone incredibly mad because he said he broke I-95. If you remember
Point of order.
Here, when the freaking highway was broken, took responsibility for that and said that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 sucks. And that crowd was ready to kill him.
Hot take.
That was like Harley race in the St. Louis arenas in the 1980s, getting shanked by grandmas level of animosity.
So,
yeah,
not for nothing, and not overstepping my bounds here as a former host.
Better not.
Habits die hard. I understand.
Two things about what you just said. Number one, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 is a legendary game.
Amazing game.
It is unparalleled. Number
Which
two,
Which console?
PlayStation.
Okay, acceptable.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Fair.
number two, I love that, and I hate that I have to give you credit for anything since you've stolen my podcast from me. But talking about FDR Park, FDR Park is becoming like this legendary like wrestling venue in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Like people are talking about it in reverence, like they talk about the ECW arena, because they're doing such innovative and creative things there. People just are so wanting to go and see that. It's a very cool venue.
The week of WrestleMania, there were a couple, if I say outlaw shows, I don't mean that with Jim Cornette level of condescension.
Right.
Not to be confused with my own level of condescension and scorn. But I mean that with reverence to the DIY nature that was the entrepreneurial spirit underlying these shows. I recall a few of those, and somebody had called the police, and unlike the Philadelphia police, actually showed up in response to a call, and that led to the end of the shows. But other than that, I'm unaware of other events, wrestling-related events at the venue.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very big WrestleMania week. That was one of the shows that like people were very much most excited about. Even going to other shows, you would hear people. There was a murmur about it when people were talking about like what they were kind of really looking forward to spending their time on that week, and there was a lot of interest in that. So
yeah,
people talk about that very fondly. And while I'm at it, if I may ask a question, I know that's it's very taboo now that I'm just I'm just another cog in the wheel here. Yes,
Correct.
but
We're a
so-
family. We're a
Oh.
family. Like you can be a second cousin 5
Oh.
times removed. That maybe it's own
Thank you.
sooner or
Right,
later,
there you
but
go.
we're a family.
I prefer the term step cousin-in-law, but it's okay.
There you go. Step cousin-in-law. Okay. Go ahead.
So my question is for you, Sean. What are you like falling in line here? Like you're gushing over these guys and their answers, and they stole our podcast. Do you understand what's happening?
I understand what's happening, but
do I have to explain-
But we have to
do I
do
have-
a little. We have to do a little bit. More. We want to keep our podcast. We have to at
Do I
least-
need like a whiteboard, and do I need to like draw this out for you?
Listen, we have to at least.
Those two guys on the screen stole our podcast.
Yeah, but if we
well,
don't-
they didn't steal it; they bought it.
If we don't
but-
fall in line just a little bit, they could take our podcast away completely, and we could just be out totally.
Stolen.
Would you rather at least
Nobody-
be a part of the show, or just be out
And
entirely? Just them-
Nobody win with this because you say stole, like we stole something, like it was a legitimate purchase. You don't have to like stole. Better
Yeah,
hope,
you
dude.
keep
Better-
you
better
keep
hope.
saying legitimate, but I'm not so. Until I
better-
see the paperwork, I'm not so sure.
Do you not play Call of Duty? Because-
I do.
Because
I do
Microsoft
not.
stole Activision.
No, I don't. I don't play Call of Duty because I have an active social life.
What are you trying to say there, buddy?
Well, I'm just saying.
What are you trying to say that they all have social lives?
I don't know what they do in their free time.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't play Call of Duty. I'm just
Let's
simply
be-
saying that
Yes. Let's be
shareholder
let's be
approved mergers and
journalists.
shareholder
Yes.
approved mergers.
Let's be journalists and let's be fair here,
Right.
since they legitimately bought
Right.
our podcast.
Right.
So tell us, Dr. Ethan Wilde, the upstanding Dylan Mesh, what do you like to do in your free time besides acquisitions?
I suppose this takes all things off the table, like reading the financial papers,
Art and culture.
Right.
deeply
Yeah.
spending lots of time watching CNBC,
Mhm.
hating Jim Cramer.
Right.
I mean, really, you talk about your all-time gimmicks. People talk about gimmicks in relation to wrestling, but quite frankly, they're visible everywhere. And I think that when we were all 4 years old, we all had some variation of the Fisher Price. Here's just a piece of plastic with things to hit, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
there's a bell, and there's a circle that you push, and it goes. It makes like a squeak sound, and something else that makes a honk. Like
right.
you did that when you were 4 because you were trying to
Right.
develop your rudimentary motor skills.
Mhm.
Jim Cramer has turned that into a career. He's a multimillionaire
Mhm.
because he's a 60-year-old man thwacking away at a Fisher Price machine saying sell Boeing 5 days a week.
Jeez.
It's incredible. But that's neither here nor there. What do I do in my free time? So not financial, not wrestling. Oh. I watch Westerns. That's
Okay.
not
Yeah.
I've actually been watching I've been watching the Cricket World Cup, the T20
Oh, wow, okay.
Cricket World Cup.
Okay.
So I started watching. I discovered a channel on cable television. As a person of means, I can afford cable television.
Right.
I don't
Right.
consider it an unnecessary expense because I simply don't think about it.
Right.
But I discovered this channel way up the stack, in the 1500s called Willow. And I was flipping channels one day and I
Mhm.
saw a sport that, look, if any of us saw a photo of cricket, you would immediately identify it as cricket. It's the helmets, the bats, the pitch. You would look at it and say, that's cricket. But do you know anything about it?
Not much.
I've heard of
I've
a-
heard of it, but I
I've heard
don't
of
know
a-
much about it.
I've heard of a sticky wicket.
There you go.
I don't know that wickets are sticky, but so I started watching it.
Yes.
And I became enamored with watching the Premier League in India. So cricket has been reduced to a shorter format. So cricket's legendary matches will take 5 days. So how could any spectator be interested in that? The structure's been shortened to what's called T20, and it takes about 3 hours to play. So a baseball game, a football game kind of length. And the crowds in India are just otherworldly. Like, it's easy to think of it as this up like hirsute, like uptight British colonial sport, which it still is. but the crowds here, I think the way that I describe it in the IPL is like, imagine a world in which Happy Gilmore is a documentary and
Right.
successfully transformed golf crowds into NASCAR crowds. They're loud,
Yeah.
they're screaming, they're dancing, they have horns and other sorts of noisemakers. They are just visibly and risibly into it, and it's tremendous to watch.
Right.
It's very calm. I went to my first cricket match about 10 days ago.
Wow.
I saw
How was your experience?
wonderful. I sat front row. I went to see Canada and Ireland.
Nice.
It was the only game that fit my schedule. I did not get to see the USA, but the USA. So the first round of 16 teams has just ended. I think this afternoon.
Okay.
And that reduces now to 8 teams. And they play within groups of 4 round robins, and the top 2 move on.
Mhm.
But the US has advanced to the Elite 8 for the first time in history in a T20 World Cup. And
Wow.
Pakistan, who was a finalist in 2022, so the most recent one, they're every other year. Pakistan was sent, no pun intended, packing. So they're done.
Right.
They're done. A legendary team. That was actually the game that I wanted to see. My schedule wouldn't allow it. Was India and Pakistan, which was up in Long Island.
Right.
I couldn't make it work, but the place was full. 32,000 people screaming. Just incredible game. And India won in the end. So India and the United States are moving on. So I'm spending a lot of my time enjoying other sports.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan?
What about you, Dylan?
Well, speaking of enjoying sports, this first season was maybe the first that I really intently watched and enjoyed hockey. With
Mhm.
good doctor with his connections actually got us to 2 Flyers games this year
Mhm.
Very nice.
of him, and we went with the
the captain. We haven't brought up the captain yet. Been
the
remiss in our duties.
yeah. He was also just out at the Princeton battlefield, and he was there 2 days after me, and we did not plan that at all. So we are very much,
In sync.
on the same wavelength all the time. Yeah. It's been I've found a lot of joy in watching hockey. It's a beautiful yet brutal sport, and I've had a love of the Flyers my entire life growing up in rural Pennsylvania.
Sure.
No other local sports teams, just the Flyers.
Right.
But other than that, I enjoy the occasional video game. If you couldn't guess from my merchandise, I've been playing Doom since I was literally 3 years old. I knew how to use WSAD before I could WALK. I'm not even joking. So I've been playing that like my entire life, like to this day. I also play bass guitar. I don't know if I play it well, but I play it. And other than that, I can't stand being around people, which is why I continue to live in Razorback Hollow, where my only neighbors are an old graveyard that was supposed to be excavated and wasn't, so there's still bodies out there and there's not supposed to be. And, that's why I like spending my time out in nature, just going for a walk, and sometimes not putting on sunscreen, getting the shit burned.
Yes.
Is that where Teeter Tatum Jr. whatever
Teeter Tatum
crisis, not alter ego lives?
They got rid of the headstones, but like because I live in like an older part of the state, it was like it was back in a time where like it was a place where folk would bury their kin, but it was the kin they were ashamed.
Where folk would bury their kin. I feel like that's a tagline for your finishing maneuver.
They'd say folk he's ashamed of, and I was like, they were ashamed of. So there was just this separate graveyard for just people that like just didn't fit in with society for whatever reason. And for, probably the dumbest reasons possible if you go back a couple hundred years and the things people hated for. And they just for whatever
just
reason,
known because of dropsy.
The dumbest things possible. And somehow
canceled for cholera.
And somehow that was probably another one. Just suspected of being a witch or something. So just bury them out nowhere near anybody else. And they somehow my house ended up right by there. They were supposed to have moved all the bodies. Allegedly they didn't. I can hear people talking when I know nobody else is around out there. So somebody tells me somebody's still out there. it doesn't really bother me because they're not expecting a conversation from me. So that's good enough. I don't like talking to people.
Is it safe to say, Dylan, that you hear voices in your head? They counsel you. They talk to you. They talk to you.
I could beat that dude, right?
Throw out the challenge.
Andy Rorton, my favorite Fire Pro guy. I don't know what this is. So, Ralph and Sean,
Yes.
we're talking about free time. What are
Yes.
you going to do with all this free time if you're not going to play Call of Duty? You're gonna have some free time coming up. No, not tons of free time because we're still
just
retaining
enough,
your
right?
services at least.
My free
short
time will
term.
consist of work and this. Pretty much. That's what I do as it is. I work in this.
Well, as I mentioned, I have a social life, and so myself and my one or two friends myself and my one or two friends will enjoy some time, sitting around and contemplating how we too can become financial experts and
Yes.
wizards, and maybe I'll buy somebody else's podcast while I'm at it in 30 years when I have enough money.
You're getting some residuals from BFC, aren't you?
Sure. So there's always that.
I mean, we don't know now because you now have absorbed
Well,
us through BFC. So
well,
we
we
don't know what
were.
residuals. Yeah,
I mean,
we were getting residuals, but now we're not so sure.
That's all, I guess, in the financials of it all. But no, I think I'll maybe I'll take Dylan's advice and enjoy nature for a while.
There you go.
Just
There you
go
go.
out and commune and think about lost opportunities.
Yep.
And think about how Sean so easily fell in line, and I'm just like, fight the good fight.
I'm trying to do a little bit of both here.
I
Listen,
understand.
again, I want to keep the show.
Yes.
So if I just say no, what are they? They're just going to take us off the screen.
I'm not
and then
saying
that's
I'm
it.
not saying no. It's just all right. So
Only
in the vein
Amy Winehouse gets to say no.
yes. So in the vein of talking about the podcast again, I'm not so sure now that you're new podcast owners. I don't know where things fall, but we do have to take a short break because we have sponsorships that are very important to us yet, and so we're going to take a short break. While we do that, we're going, for those who don't know what's happening.
Yes, we're going to let you.
For those just
let you
joining
in.
us here, Wilde LLC has taken financial ownership of Opinion City, and we're going to show you how that happened, and then you'll see a video from our sponsor StreamYard,
and then we'll come back.
And then we'll come back with our brand new hosts leading us to the promised land.
Yeah.
We will see you shortly.
You are what? Hello. Yeah, this is he. Yes, this is Dr. Ethan Wilde. Look, I'm in the middle of training at the Worldwide Dojo. I'm getting my work in right now. Who is this? Ben Frank connection? Are you serious? Really? Effective when? This Sunday. So let me get this straight. Effective immediately, Wilde LLC is the sole owner and possessor of all rights, trademarks, and episodes of the Opinion City podcast, and we can do anything we want with it. We're the hosts now, starting this Sunday. Have you told the hosts? Have you told Ralph and Sean? Well, you're going to let us have that privilege then, won't you? Can we do it on the show? Sunday? Wow. On behalf of Wilde LLC, thank you very much. We cannot wait. Goodbye.
So as you can see, apparently even our sponsorships have been hijacked by Wilde LLC.
I know,
because
pretty much all graphics have been. Everything's been taken over by the LLC.
Everything's
Slowly
been
but
taken over.
surely. It's
Yes, wrestling's best business in the business has again
Absorbed
upstaged
us.
us one more time. So I guess we can look forward to seeing Wilde LLC sponsorships on the show moving
Throughout
forward.
the coming weeks, I'm sure.
Yes.
Gradual changes, all improvements, all taking us in the right direction. So at the end of that, so again, running podcasts, this is all new to us. I'm sure that we're better at it than both of you already, but still admitting to being willing to learn. The end of that mentioned a top 5 main event.
Hey, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Listen,
See,
I
mean,
we have our
being that you absorbed the podcast, you should know that our format is top 5 lists, and normally we give the guests the choice of their own top 5 to talk about after the break.
And it seems to me that if that wasn't communicated to you guys, well, that's not really our problem. We're just employees. We don't make those decisions.
No, it's your problem, actually. Effective
Is that how you talk to the C-suite?
is critical
Oh.
business, okay?
I don't know
Now,
if you say so.
you didn't know that your own podcast got bought out. But we expect you to communicate with us about things like this. So don't let it happen again. Please. I said please.
Well, in fairness, I did call both of your numbers
Fair.
and no one answered. So
No, I wasn't going to pick up. Not for you. I'm in the woods.
Did it start with 555?
Right.
yes, it ended in, well, I don't want to give it away to
Right.
everyone, but if you didn't listen to that first part, listen to this one. It ended in 1212.
There you
so,
go.
Yes.
Yes. Well, next time call me 1-900-909-9900. You'll get
Okay.
right.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right in my contact list under regular ass Ralph.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sound like
I
Gino
appreciate,
Villand.
I appreciate that, sir.
Yeah.
At least you'll know who you're not picking up now.
Right. Exactly.
Yes. Yes. So we usually present some sort of top 5 list. Interestingly enough, while we were doing all of that, we did have a question from one of our esteemed viewers. Favorite games you've played on any console? So that could fill in for a top 5 list, as it were. Since,
There you go.
Since our crack communications team wasn't able to
communicate
reach you, we
the
tried
format. We tried so multiple times.
we tried smoke signals and we couldn't find
couldn't
our
get it.
local Western Union office.
Yeah.
So
I only respond to semaphore.
I
Right,
understand. I'll send certified letter next
So
time.
Yeah, there you
top 5 games. We're gonna go with Laser Neon's question and say
Sure,
top
why
5
not?
questions.
Why not? We love the
games.
fans. Sure.
Let's go back and forth, Dylan, just to make sure that there's no overlap. I don't want to list 5 things and then have you say, well, Doom, the Dark Ages, Doom 3,
Right.
Doom 2 of the master levels.
Thank you for
I
shouting.
just started playing the Mega Man Legacy Collection.
Oh, they're so good.
It's
Yes.
Mega Man 1 through 6.
So good.
I'll be quite frank. I'm not playing them the way they're intended to be played. So
What does that mean?
it means that I'm using the rewind button liberally. So I don't
Got
Cheating.
It.
I
So
got
I don't-
Got it.
look. Otherwise, I'm just going to chuck a $600 Steam Deck across the wall and it's going to shatter.
Right.
I don't want to do that. So
Mhm.
there's something about the beauty of the color, the artwork. The artwork's
Mhm.
I don't know the Mega Man artist, but it's kind of Toriyama-esque, I think,
Yeah.
in terms of its style. And the way that the player responds and controls, look, I think that's my Desert Island series,
Nice.
Mega Man.
Very cool.
Dylan?
We already talked about Doom, so I would say Fallout 3.
Ooh.
I think that was kind of my introduction to an open world RPG of that kind, and that may be a controversial pick only because almost everybody prefers New Vegas.
Right.
I think because Fallout 3 was sort of that gateway drug for me. It hit different. I think also just like maybe tonally, maybe just the fact that I don't know. It was just more of a wrecked sort of Metropolis type vibe, not open.
Mhm.
It just it hit different for me. But it's when you talk about like worlds that you want to like get lost in, which is like it's hard to achieve like with a book or a video game or anything like that. Like one of the few games that like actually achieved that for me. So also reminds me of just how brutal the world can be. You know, the real world, not even a video game one. It makes me feel about things, and reminds me that if I want to smash somebody over the head with a blunt object, you know, maybe that's justified.
Right.
Like
So
the podcast lackeys and all that.
speaking of smashing people over the head, that's a perfect segue to my number 2 series, the Yakuza / Like a Dragon.
Oh,
series.
those are
I
those
played.
are intense.
I bought them years ago, and I sat around and never got around to playing them. And then I played, I think Yakuza 0 in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and it clicked. The immersive worlds, the serious face it puts on stupid things, and the stupid face it puts on serious things. The sheer volume of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have played through every game in that series, so much so that I even played through on the PlayStation 3. In PlayStation 3 in Japan, they released a single disc of Yuga Gotoku 1 and 2 on one disc,
Mm-hmm.
and updated it for the PS3. So it's not like Kiwami. It's the original. I even played through both of those.
Wow.
Just to, you get a sense of sort of historically how they've evolved. But just there's always something to do. There's always too much to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something incredibly absurd. The translation team obviously treats that with a great deal of care. So I'd say my time is 80%. And that's probably a conservative estimate of my gaming time, is probably any more spent playing a game from that studio.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Another one for me, I would say Dark Souls.
Ooh, good pick. Good pick.
I first purchased, so back in 2014, I purchased an Xbox One in anticipation of Fallout 4 coming out.
Okay.
Somewhere in that time span. While I was in the store, I saw the Dark Souls, which was a game that I just knew it was like notoriously difficult, was sitting on the shelf for next to no money.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought that too. When I got the Xbox One, I also purchased Batman Arkham Knight. I anticipated
Nice. Great game.
Also a great game. I anticipated playing that until Fallout 4 came out. That's not what happened. Dark Souls ate up all of my time.
Right.
A game that I bought on a whim, I expected it to just piss me off, and it's just like I was going to just throw it away, and that's not what happened. Maybe the best example of a game that like just rewards struggle, does not hold your hand in any way, shape, or form, and just the simplest task that you can accomplish will make you feel like you have the world, and then that process just starts all over again because opens up and you're like, oh, all right, I'll have to go kill something 17 times bigger than me. But like it's just the tremendous journey that it takes you on. And again, it was like I played Elden Ring, which was also an incredible game, but it's like the first time you experience something like that, it just hits different. So it was a very special experience for me.
You keep saying it hits different. Isn't that the 2K24 line?
It is. That's all right.
It probably is now, whether we want.
So I thought, isn't Dark Souls like a really, really, really tough game? So do you just like to torture yourself with that game?
Kind of, yeah.
You see him wrestle?
Fair.
You kind of have to be of a certain mindset, and you could probably do a lot of psychoanalyzing.
Right.
As a result, but it's the idea of just like challenging yourself. And with a video game, it's different because there are parameters it has no choice but to work within, and it's kind of like where you can figure out how to manipulate those parameters, and you do get a reward from it. It's kind of a black and white thing in that regard. Like I enjoy it. It's almost like an elaborate puzzle game,
right?
Like for example, if you recall the game Braid, which came out a long time ago.
Wow,
I never got to it, and it's 15 years old around the internet at this point. I bought it the other day, and I've been playing, and it's pissed me off in all way. Like I'm just sitting there like I don't know how to grab this puzzle piece, but I will stick with it and I will let it drive in, and eventually I get it. So yeah, there's something to that where I do enjoy just sort of causing myself this pain, but just knowing that there is a meager, almost hollow victory in it somewhere.
Right.
I'm all about that.
Doctor?
Yeah, I'd say just to be mindful of time, I think I'll simply say Castlevania. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Demon Souls. I grew up
series,
with Castlevania.
Have you watched the Netflix show yet?
No.
Oh,
I watched an episode or two, and I'm sure it's great. I don't think it's for me.
Okay.
But Castlevania, just going by the NES games, the Super NES games, but especially, and I bought a PC Engine Duo just so I could play Dracula X the way it was intended to be played.
Nice.
And I think that the way that serves as the bridge from the 80s, 90s platform style to the more labyrinthine not Super NES, Symphony of the Night on, because it was a sort of a linear platformer like what you saw in the younger, but there were also secret places that, and this is in a time where you really didn't have access to walkthroughs or game facts or anything like that. You would hit a wall and it would go in the opposite direction, and you would think, well, what's this? And it would take you to a whole alternate level. And a game so teeming with secrets that existed in a world that didn't hold your hand and walk you through that. It's an experience that can't be replicated today in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Number 4, Dylan?
I would say Pokemon Red and Blue.
Oh, classic.
Blue.
Classic.
And that's another one where you can tell a lot about somebody based on which, if it comes down to Pokemon, like which generation that they say.
Right.
And I've angered the doctor so much with my choice that he never mind.
He got so mad he walked away.
Like, that's it, I'm out.
I'm done. Pokemon Red and Blue. What is that?
Wilde LLC over. Give them the show back.
It is incredibly. No, that's not happening. No matter what. Might be a bit of a controversial choice, but again, it was the one that got me into all of that. I feel like the music has a big part of it too. The music of those games are always great, but there is something about that generation of Nintendo games, which I think is also a big part of the magic of Mega Man. That just hits. It just, I don't know. It affects certain parts of my brain that like other music does not. And it was just the idea of, the hardware limitations and all that. It's just the way that people had to be creative in creating these expansive worlds and making it seem like you were going on this giant, fantastical journey. Yeah. And realistically, there was like next to nothing on these maps that they were creating. I really enjoy seeing the creativity that developers back in the day would utilize with limitations like that. And on top of that, it was just like, it was this thing of like, I was a child and it was like, you went on this long journey with these little creatures that you were taking with you. I was like, well, thank you, little animals, for attacking other little animals.
Right.
And now look, we're the world champions. We're going to be on ESPN or whatever the hell. This is great. So, and then Twitch Plays Pokemon just like reignited that love for me. If you recall that, that's another 10-year-old phenomenon. That was absolutely incredible.
All right, number 5 for you, Doctor.
You said Twitch.
Yeah.
He said Twitch.
Yeah, if it invoked an image of Lucas Twitch DeSangro, I entirely apologize.
It's quite all right.
An awful human. Yeah. But no, even just the platform itself is just no good. That was literally the first and last time that platform did anything good for anybody. Then when AAA would air Triple Mania on there. That's about it.
All right, so last one for Sir Dr. Ethan Wilde.
So I got up not because I was disgusted by Pokemon. I am. But
he is.
This is nearby. So I just finished this book, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. Sure, it's award-winning fiction or whatever, and it's about two people who grow up. It's their lives together, their youth,
Right.
their adolescence, their adulthood,
Mhm.
and there's some legitimate criticisms of it as a piece of fiction, but it also is written through the lens of people who are working in the gaming industry
Okay.
in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and
Mhm.
it is. So if you're familiar with Ready Player One, if you saw the film,
Yes.
which is probably much more likely than reading the book because reading is for intellects.
I actually have the book.
So both of them have the same approach to nostalgia. It's the Seth MacFarlane concept of humor, which is to beat you over the head with something you recall and convince you that that is a substitute for a joke, or in the case
Right.
of Ready Player One, that it's a substitute for an overall story arc and narrative. So if you watch an episode of Family Guy, it's, hey, do you remember Captain and Tennille? Hey, do you remember
Yeah.
snow cones from when you were a kid? And you're like, ha ha ha, I remember that. And nobody remembers that. Everybody remembers that.
Right.
So, and Ready Player One was that, but for video games. Hey, do you remember Mega Man? Hey, do you remember Mario? Hey, do you remember Sonic? Hey, and it's several pages of that and not a story. Tomorrow is a story, and it's a fairly well written story. Not the greatest book I've ever read, but it is gaming adjacent. I'll probably also say Alan Wake 2, because I just finished up the DLC on that. The DLC on that was very good. That's a good meta, as close as art can become to a game can become to art.
Right. Got you. Final one for Dylan.
Oh, final one for Dylan. The first game that comes to mind for me when you say that, I would say Mortal Kombat Deception.
Oh,
Wow.
Is that like the 3D platform one?
Yeah, that was
That's crazy. All right, cool.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like, I don't know what it is with like beloved series, and like I enjoy one that like a lot of other people don't. But that was like the weird one with like the chess combat and the kart racer or whatever.
Right.
But I mostly enjoyed it because it was accessible for me because it was on the PS2.
Yeah.
And I did play the ones in the arcade, which was cool. But like now and they started putting them on consoles, and I was like, sweet, I don't have to go out in public to play this violent game.
Right.
But it was really cool for me because the story is one that I feel like flies under the radar, at least in the theme that the theme and what it tries to tell is basically the story of this kid that gets roped into something and has to travel around the multiverse. As he does this, he is learning from all of these amazing warriors, aka the roster of Mortal Kombat, and all these characters.
Right.
And he picks up a move from each of them. You know, like he runs Scorpion, and he can do the get over here after Scorpion. And basically, he takes all that knowledge, and it culminates in him having to fight like the big bad guy at the end of the game, and he has to use all that to basically like fulfill his destiny. I found that to be very powerful, even at the time, but more so as I got older.
Right.
Sometimes I just feel like the stuff that you want to do when you're ambitious enough, you two could use a lesson in ambition, but just keep hanging out with us, and that'll probably help. But either that, like just like the major challenges in your life. Sometimes I feel like if you view everything that happened up until that point as like, just you kind of getting you ready for what's in front of you at this moment. I don't know. I thought that was very powerful, and it's kind of helped me out with especially in wrestling.
Yeah,
especially in wrestling when you're tasked with something you've never done before, or something that just seems to be like of great importance. You kind of just have to remember everything that got you to that point, and just put your all into it and see what happens.
I should also point out, I know that Brian Ace's favorite game. So for Christmas, the LLC, they all got very high end, expensive gifts. Brian got a special gift. I found a used Sega Genesis at a Goodwill. That was $9, and a copy of Cool Spot, a cartridge that was included. He's been playing that every day. He says it's his favorite, absolute favorite. He's never seen graphics quite like that before.
I'm happy.
That's
Really-
awesome.
That's great.
Been
Good for you.
drinking 7-Up just nonstop.
Yes.
Right.
Listen, I mean, that's that's what it was all about back
Yeah,
then.
for real.
You know. So, all right. Again, maybe overstepping my bounds here, but now that you're into the podcasting world, one of the things that we normally do before we wrap up our wonderful shows is that we go over some upcoming events. And I have to say that we have a graphic for this one that we usually run, and I shudder to think of what your graphics department has done to it.
Yeah,
I'm very nervous.
I'm very curious.
Please.
So,
Here is the graphic. Guys, roll the graphic for the upcoming events.
Dylan, you did that, didn't you?
I don't even know what to say.
Hey.
I don't honestly even know what to say.
I'm pretty sure that was Dylan's work.
I'm shattered and frightened by that. So
Great. Well, I didn't do it myself, but I did scream at the graphic artist people as they were making.
I figured
Right,
you
I
had
figured as
something to
much.
do with it.
But
Like when you get a robot voice when you're calling up customer support, you scream, agent.
Right.
He just was screaming impending doom at a
Yeah,
graphic
you're just
artist.
inventing doom over and over again.
and doing so, we got a wonderful result. So there's a lesson to be learned.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So you guys have been talking about some of your upcoming events. Obviously, you mentioned a possible match that has not technically been announced yet,
yes.
for July 14th. That
Mhm.
is the big show at the Neshaminy Brewing Company.
Yep.
That is the Comrades for Vlad. We got bought out. We're upset about that.
Yep.
But obviously we want to be 100% serious about this. This is a very important show.
Yes.
Vlad Radnoff is a very good friend to a lot of people.
Mhm.
He's a lot of people know him from his days ring announcing in Chikara, and then just up and down the East Coast, just being a great person who is in a time of need. And obviously we want to do everything we can to help him out. So there is a joint show happening between Labor of Love and the LVAC. It will be at the Neshaminy Brewing Company on July 14th, I believe. Doors open at 1:30. It's going to be a great time. There's going to be a lot of people there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and again, it's for a super good cause. So we are super excited to be able to talk about that and be able to just get that word out there that you guys will be participating in that show as well. Obviously, Wilde LLC would have their name all over it because at the end of the day, we help each other. That's the important
100%.
thing. We'll actually have a video on our YouTube soon. Talking about the event a little bit. We got an interview with Chris from LVAC and Billy from Labor of Love yesterday. So that'll be on our YouTube soon. But, obviously it's great that you guys are involved in that. And so that's coming up July 14th. And anything else you want to spotlight?
Sure. I'll hop in real quick before Dylan. So look, any asset that we wish to acquire, we want to mature whether we're there or not. So earlier I had mentioned Green Mountain Wrestling. We're looking up there as a prospective opportunity. They also have a great dispensary. Forbin's is a sponsor that, if they want to throw free things our way, the LLC will happily oblige. They have an event, the Battle for Bradford, I think, is coming for Battle in Bradford.
Right.
This coming Saturday. So 6 days from today, Green Mountain Wrestling. Day after that, MIT will be victorious and send Ricky Price and Spud Tater Senior packing.
Spud Tater Senior. I feel like this whole show,
Scoop Tatum.
You've changed his name at least 15 times.
I forget what it is. Skeeter Davis. Well, no, Skeeter Davis is an
Peter Davis. I don't know.
But Skeeter Davis sang The End of the World, right? And so it'll be the end of the world for
there you go.
Price.
Tudor Datum, MIT, the think tank, Reign Supreme, Smash Master Wrestling. That's next Sunday. You mentioned Labor of Love and LVAC's benefit for Vlad. Again, Vlad means the world to us, and so we're really excited to be a part of that show. I know that the Fightertainment Captured Lightning Spectacular about 11 days from now That'll be live streaming. I think they were on Twitch in the past.
Yes.
Twitch.
Mike Bailey's Speedball Mike Bailey's Twitch channel.
There you go.
You are in the Philadelphia. That is, I believe, Thursday, June 27th.
Correct.
Would like tickets for that, you can message either Mike or Cheeseburger and reach them, or you can watch on Mike Bailey's Twitch stream. Yeah.
There you go.
I think I may not even ask either of them and just show up with this microphone and these dulcet tones.
Right.
And say, let me talk to you. I think nobody's using that, right?
Yeah. Anybody else listening though, don't try to do what he does, because you'll be thrown down the steps of that building.
Jeez.
Yeah.
We'll make Preacher do that.
Yeah.
So those are some upcoming. I know mid-August, High Tension has a date coming up. High Tension also has, I think, a no-ring show coming up soon. It's a High Tension Pro Wrestling Explosion. I believe it's they had hosted them in the past at the Fire on Girard Ave in Philadelphia. I think that might be the case as well.
Okay.
Dylan, Dylan, do you have anything coming up beyond that?
The most immediate thing actually is High Tension is also airing episodes from tapings that they did earlier this year on their YouTube channel. You can find that at High Tension Wrestling or the High Tension Network, where they have content from a handful of promotions that fall under the High Tension Network,
Right.
all of which we have a hand in as well. Spoiler alert. But I believe there was an episode, I think they had to postpone one that was going to go up today featuring the Doctor and myself. It was going to feature myself with a match that I had against Billy Avery. So I hope he behaved when you interviewed him.
Sure he didn't.
That match will go up eventually. But yeah, keep an eye on that. Go subscribe to them, and you can stay abreast of any updates whenever that it does go up.
Yeah.
Right.
July 19th. So chronological order, Green Mountain next week. We won't be there, but we support them because we want to take them over. Smash Master and MIT will reign victorious. July 14th, June 27th, 11 days from now, Fightertainment at the Worldwide Dojo. July 14th, Labor of Love, LVAC, benefit for Vlad. July 19th is Wrestle Pit, and that is the co-branded event from High Tension and Pro Wrestling Explosion. And I was correct. That is at the Fire in Philadelphia, PA.
Gotcha.
8 p.m. So late start. If you have to be up from work early,
Yeah.
you still go, or just buy
Right. Sure.
give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, everyone can follow the Wilde LLC on Twitter and Instagram at Wilde_LLC, and you can see everything that all the members of Wilde LLC are doing there.
Absolutely.
That's exciting stuff.
On our socials. Thank you. Look, I don't like to compliment either of you, but I deeply appreciate it. You're calling it Twitter instead of its actual.
I would never call it the other name. It's always Twitter to me. It's
So-
always Twitter.
Twitter being a verb, one tweets on Twitter. So
Yeah.
what do you?
Right.
You don't not tweet. Do you post? Do people use that?
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
I think you're just cognitively gone from this mortal plane if you say I posted.
I post.
I posted on X.
I tweet. Right.
No, you tweeted on Twitter.
Yes, I tweeted on Twitter.
So as the former hosts, we do have some obligated scheduled shows coming up that we'll need to take care of, and so we're just going to talk about those quickly. Obviously, next week's show is going to be with tag team Fresh Air from Canada. Of course, as you can see, Wilde LLC presents. Episode 60, interview with Fresh Air.
We're going to bring you greatness, McRae and Junior.
Yes,
right.
Yes, they are fresh, they are in the air, and they are from Canada. So that'll be next week. While you're waiting for next week's episode, certainly check out last week's episode where we talked about NXT Battleground. And apparently our opinion was Wilde LLC should have been on this show. So
good job, boys.
Thank you for that. We appreciate the new branding.
And of course, we can't forget the fanny pack.
Oh yeah,
show off
and
the merch.
So we have
as per
we did
LLC's assets. We have to show them what merch they can offer.
We did
to
find
us.
a picture of the fanny pack.
Yes,
so
the fanny pack.
There you go.
The belt.
City fanny
official.
Pack. Yes.
Buy the bag.
Yes. So buy some merch.
Buy some merch.
The link is down in the description. And so there you have it. We're not us anymore.
Yeah. So I guess any last words from the Wilde LLC, because we're not the hosts.
Yeah,
I would say it sounds to me like old habits die hard,
they certainly do.
don't they? But look, we're excited to we're excited and delighted to have acquired these assets. We want to see them mature into a profitable entity.
Mhm.
It's not just taking for taking's sake. It's not taking for gloating. Those are just mere fringe benefits. What we truly want to do is develop an asset, enhance our portfolio, and become as stupendously wealthy as imaginable. It's not coming from independent wrestling. It's coming from acquisition. It's coming from possession and control of assets. So to that extent, we appreciate the effort that has brought you to this point. We appreciate your effort and your compliance more than that going forward. And I know that tomorrow you're hosting as well. You got that memo, right?
See, well, yes, we do a Monday Night Raw live stream on Monday nights on the YouTube channel. I believe it'll also be on our Facebook and Twitter as well. So we do that on Monday nights.
Yes,
that was the schedule of the previous host.
Yes, yes.
And you think that that's yours still?
I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's somebody's. I know that. I'm quickly learning that nothing's mine anymore.
Yeah,
so.
right.
You'll get Also, just so you know, when you do that, one of us just might hop in to chaperone and make sure that you are behaving. So
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's not much I can do about it.
Yeah, we really can't say anything about it. Really,
yeah, we're kind of.
It's just
it is what it is.
Stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
See you Monday. See you next Sunday with fresh air. See you the following Monday. See you in your dreams. See you in your inbox. See you in Workday.
Oh, God.
See you soon for your Q2 evaluations.
Oh, God.
So, with that having been said, I am the good Dr. Ethan Wilde. With me, as always, the upstanding Dylan Mesh. And this has been Wilde LLC Presents Opinion City Podcast. On behalf of Wilde LLC, this has been the Opinion City Podcast. It has been your pleasure.
Happy trails till we meet again.
Okay, thanks for watching this presentation. Like, share, and subscribe for more.